Hi, I just want to take a couple minutes to talk about crew fatigue, really crew rest. Fatigue is something that affects air crews and I guess everybody in the society, particularly people that do shift work, night work. Air crews are faced with challenges in staying awake many times because of the hours that we fly. There's a limitation on how long you can fly. The rules are generally in the US 30 hours in a 7 day period, 100 hours in a month, and up to 1,000 hours in a year. Internationally, that those numbers can vary a little bit, and we're restricted by federal law, and sometimes companies, corporations, and the unions may tighten that up a bit, but for the most part, they go to the maximums. Major challenge will occur when you're crossing a lot of time zones, and then everybody who's human will experience something called the circadian rhythm disruption. Your circadian rhythm basically sets your internal body clock so it knows night from day, when it should be waking up, when it should be going to sleep. As we cross time zones, that that becomes compromised basically because you're adjusting, particularly for international travel. It's said that to recover from jet lag, when they talk about jet lag, that's a circadian rhythm disruption. But to recover from jet lag can take up to a day or 2 days per 1 hour of time change. It's less than that really for me. It was never that long, but it takes a little while. So consider someone that's flying for 10, 12 hours. Well, that's quite a bit. That's quite a bit of difference. So jet lag is not uncommon. There's some ways to counter that. I would do it by, if I was going to the West, to the Asia, I would try to work out, get some vigorous exercise for 45 minutes to an hour, then lay down. That worked for me. Other people have other methods. I think there's something called light therapy that's gaining traction. But rest is important, particularly at air crews, because that's when a lot of accidents happen. Accidents and mishaps happen because of not getting sufficient rest and not being able to get sufficient rest because of the changes in body composition. It's probably most acute when you have a two pilot crew. If you have an augmented crew, meaning you have more than two pilots, you can typically have up to four, where people take shifts of flying and rest, flying and rest. You usually don't have those problems unless it's a super ultra long flight. But having four people taking turns makes it a lot easier. Having three people taking turns also makes it a lot easier. The longer you're going, the more crew members you really need to have. So, but in the two person cockpit crew, it's just two, and sometimes you're flying a long time in the middle of nowhere with no radio traffic or nothing to really distract you. In the extreme, sometimes one pilot will take a little nap, a brief nap, and brief naps are good. Brief naps for just a few minutes can, restore most of your faculties and give you a break, particularly when it's really, really dark on a moonless night. But it's important that both pilots not fall asleep together. So I know of a case some years ago where both pilots fell asleep flying in the U.S. and they overflew their destination by 150 miles. They didn't talk to anybody. That was at night. There was no conflict with other airplanes. They turned around, they landed. It was no problem, but they did get into a bit of trouble over that. So fatigue is something that's a part of aviation. Everyone that does shift work, but those who cross time zones have the most challenge, particularly in the early morning hours when you were normally supposed to be asleep. Well, folks that fly cargo or even passengers at odd hours may be called upon to use their maximum intellectual capabilities and problem-solving abilities at a weird hour of the day or night when their body says, I should be asleep now. But they'll be called into action and will have to rise to the occasion. And I've had that a couple times too in my life where what was going on overrode my sleep impulses until the problem was solved. So our adrenaline can be pumped up, and we can do extraordinary things in extraordinary circumstances for a finite amount of time. And then the body kind of shuts down and goes to sleep as it should be. So if you have a long flight, either east or west, expect to feel a little different if you wake up. Maybe you've never experienced it before. That is totally normal. And you can recover. You will recover. You'll adapt over a period of time. That's all for today. Bye-bye.